Did you notice that there was this like flurry of anti-Neil Gaiman sentiment in the mainstream media, and then it all died down and just disappeared? It was by design, as Neil Gaiman is still seen as too big to fail by the industry. They've propped this guy up so big. He's in everything. And this right here, they're claiming it had nothing to do with Netflix removing Sandman, as Sandman was the last show to get announced that it was getting canceled as a Neil Gaiman project, as all of the big streaming networks distanced themselves from the Sandman author over the crazy allegations that were going on. And we know that there's a big court thing in battle right now, and it's really, really ugly for Neil Gaiman. If you missed this, I'm going to go over the whole situation just so you can remember what happened, because the media is definitely trying to memory hole this. It's been a really wild thing, and this is just part of the fallout of that. So please hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things in science fiction and fantasy. The Sandman is one of the most overrated comics of all time. I'll just say it right there. Neil Gaiman really takes a lot of like mythology stuff that he is semi-obscure, but you can kind of still get from Wikipedia, and still puts it into these sorts of fictions to make it look like it's smarter than it actually is. It's really this dark teenage gothic fantasy that has a lot of creepy stuff in it, and there's a lot of weird revelations. There's some section where an author is dealing with the muse and kind of R-ing the muse and holding her as a sex slave. That is really weird stuff once you start to get into like Neil Gaiman's proclivities and the like. Feels a little bit like a self-insert in spots. And this is a pattern for what you see for his fiction. It's pretty degenerate all the way around, which is why the mainstream hailed it up for so long as something good. And now Sandman dropped, and of course, they went mega woke. They went crazy on the LGBTQ agenda on the Netflix show. They, of course, race-swapped characters, just made it into the standard Netflix train wreck that you see of any adaptation of things. So it was going to fail anyway. So maybe there's some little kernel of truth to the fact that, like, this was not going to be something that was going to continue anyway, and they were planning on canceling it anyway just because it was an abject failure. But I'm not so sure about that, just given just how big this property is and how much work they put into propping up Neil Gaiman. So please hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things. This is the real fantasy news, my friends. Thank you for being here. And I am a fantasy and science fiction writer myself. I'd like you to check out this book today. It's called The Immortal Edge. This is poignant science fiction, which has some amazing depth to it. I had it on a Kickstarter campaign. We crushed it. This was part of my my $50,000 plus Kickstarter, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you have not read it yet. It's a short and pretty easy book. I think you'll enjoy it. Like I said, it's available on ebook, print, and audio. I'll put this in the description below. I'm not going to just spoil it. I'm going to let you discover it yourself. But thank you guys for reading and for, of course, making this such a huge success on the channel here. All right, so they've got this announcement now that the second and final season, they just called it final season, of Sandman, will be releasing on July 3rd, and then again as a part 2 on July 24th. I'm surprised they're even bothering to do that rather than just dumping it all at once and trying to get rid of it at this juncture. But Netflix is more and more moving towards this like part 1, part 2, part 3, where they dump a bunch of episodes at a time to try to get people back to the app rather than just doing it all at once. Now, I don't think that's going to help here, and of course, this is all going to be in the same viewing month. So again, like, why are they doing that? Maybe they're trying to get it so that people bleed over their subscription to the next month a little bit, since July 24th is towards the end of the month. Now, Neil Gaiman has been accused by a lot of different women of just atrocious things. One of them was a nanny who was watching his child, who he just she was a homeless girl that she claims that she was basically procured by Amanda Palmer to be brought to him. Just creepy stuff. That's really disgusting. And her accounts of things and the stuff that he was doing was just manipulative, terrible, and of course should be condemned and on every sort of level. There were instances where he has been accused of abusing fans. There was an instance where he was accused of abusing a massage therapist. There's an instance where there was another woman living in his house, like in a guest house, that she claims that he was forcing her to perform acts rather than pay for rent because she was unable to pay for the rent, and there was an implicit threat that she was going to get kicked out with her daughters if she could not perform that for him. So a lot of dirty, nasty stuff here and skeletons in the closet. That I think we just scratched the tip of the iceberg here, because the way that this was handled, the way that he just went silent, the way that the media covered for him and swept for it for the first 6 months, even as all this was coming out, they just refused to say anything about it. And it finally got to a point where New York Magazine interviewed one of these gals about 6-7 months later after the fact, after we'd been covering it this entire time here. And that was the one thing that made, of course, the sort of scales tip. And I noticed there were YouTube channels, like a bunch of, Daniel Green, Fantasy News, I'll call you out. You were very silent about this, and then as soon as it became the cool thing, you covered it. This is exactly what the mainstream media did, and Neil Gaiman hoped that he could sweep it away, sweep it under the rug. Now, we also uncovered on the channel that he was employing a bot campaign to kind of push social media so that just talk about the work was up at the top of things. He hired a PR crisis firm for this, and they helped him craft a blog about this, which was a really weird one when he finally did actually make a response on this. Now, over all of this, the Hollywood mainstream media, of course, actually just finally distanced themselves. They just pulled everything, pulled all of his projects. Disney dropped projects with him. Good Omens was taken off the air on Amazon and, wrapped up real quick. And, of course, this was the final shoe to drop. We were wondering if Sandman was going to be the one that was going to go. It took a long time for them to actually announce that it was going to be finally concluding. So this is why I think what we're going to hear right now isn't just an abject lie. So it was a decision we made 3 years ago, Heinberg shared. Yeah, right. Then why was this not mentioned and not given a final season update until just a couple months ago? There's some volumes where he appears in just 2 scenes. There's so many protagonists in Sandman, but if you think of the whole thing as his story, turned out to be just another season's worth of story. So they just claim it's all for story reasons. Do you buy this at all? One, there's one of 2 reasons for it. One, the Sandman first season was a failure with getting enough watch time, and people didn't like it. Number 2, this Neil Gaiman situation. There's no story reason to do that. You can make story out of Sandman forever if you really wanted to, because there's so much comic book content in there. This is just such a bunch of obviously coached cope right here. We managed to add a great deal of material as we did in season 1. A lot of the really fun surprises for fans in comics who know the entire story. We pulled a lot from different sources. We took a lot of single-issue stories and wove them into the fabric of Dream's narrative. And so he says, when this was about to get away and about the Neil Gaiman situation, this is where it is. I can't say it affected our process, which is scheduled years in advance. So look at the way that he phrased this. And like I said, there's been crisis, PR firms involved in this and all this. I can't say that it affected our process. He didn't say that it didn't affect our process. He just said, I can't say it, which means he's probably legally bound not to say it, right? Look at, oh my gosh, they're so weaselly in Hollywood. It's so funny. These are your delivery dates. You just keep going. It's been in the periphery of my experience and background of my experience, but it hasn't been a part of the world of my making the show, if that makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. You just word salad gobbledygooked, pretended your way over this, and said absolutely nothing about what's going on in this situation. Every production is its own little island. Even though we were in London, my experience was very limited to making the show, even in my personal life, which I did not have for the last 6 years. Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that this is not a 6-year type of production that's going on right now. This is a 2-season sort of thing, and Netflix splits 1 season into 2 seasons as it is typically. So we're talking a couple-year production at most. So this is very, very cagey attitude right here. I think he's just completely lying, and the way he's saying it is, I can't say that it affected our process, and the reason he's supposed to not talk about it. And as you can see, he glossed over it. There's not much there. There's no talk. He's talking about Dream's story here. We're grateful to Netflix, family reunion, et cetera, and spider sex, of course. Creepy Neil Gaiman stuff right there. So this is a very, very weird publicity statement right here. But I guess they have to say something, and they're being coached, and they're being very, very careful about what they're not saying and about what they're allowed to say on here. They're obviously not allowed to comment, and of course Netflix doesn't want them commenting on it either, because even if they say anything negative about Neil Gaiman at this juncture, which they should, and they should absolutely disavow the guy at this juncture, absolutely disgusting creep in the male feminist end of the industry, as usual, this is something where they are just trying to do a publicity tour and still trying to get people to watch this because they have the product made. Really, really sad to watch. Is what it is. Like I said, I think this is just a bizarre situation with Netflix all around, and this just seems, I can't say, what a weird phrasing. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Check out my books, guys. If you want to check out some good science fiction that's really interesting, grab this today. It's in the description below. Appreciate you being here. We'll be back soon.